Surrounded by so many excellent economists, talk to you about the politics of Turkey's economic growth and its challenges, and look at the way forward. And Aisha mentioned my new book, and thank you for the plug-in. I appreciate that. This is called The Rise of Turkey, 21st Century's First Muslim Power. Obviously, there's a question mark in the narrative, but you can't put it in the title. But what I like is that the publishers put a really nice picture on the title, which really kind of summarizes the theme of the book. It's Istanbul's Bosphorus, iconic image. The Ortaköy Mosque is here, and just behind it you have the new skyline. So it's kind of looking at the transformed face of Turkey. I'll be doing a book signing session after this panel is over. For those of you who are interested, it's going to be as you walk to the registration desk, just before you get to the exit on the left. If you'd like to get a copy, I'll be able to sign for you. But what I really want to do today is look at part of the themes of my book, which is Turkey's dramatic economic transformation in the last decade, what it means for everybody in Turkey and people outside of Turkey, including people who watch Turkey from here, from Washington. And this is a book this is my third book, my second in English. It's something I've been wanting to write for a while. And of course, I wanted to make it accessible it's in English, so I wanted to make it accessible to all Americans who read it, anyone outside of Turkey. I thought should be able to pick it up and follow the book. Turkey has lots of details, lots of politics. So I framed it as a travelogue, and the book is as if it's written in the travel log of different cities in Turkey. It's structured around 8 different cities, so it goes to Kayseri and Gaziantep, Istanbul, Ankara, and Bursa, Diyarbakır, Izmir, Malatya. And there are different themes in each chapter. So in Gaziantep, I look at the economic transformation story. In Izmir, I look at the future of Turkey's opposition. In Istanbul, I look at its economic rise. In Ankara, I look at its soft power. In Diyarbakır, I look at the Kurdish issue. And then I really come back to this driving theme, which is that Turkey has grown in the last decade and dramatically to become one of the largest economies in its neighborhood, and also one of the top economies in Europe. And Aisha gave us a really excellent presentation on that to give us a sense of where Turkey has come. So to give you a sense of the book, but also I think to add to this conversation, what I'd like to do is to go beyond the economy of Turkey's transformation and its challenges. They're there, I know. But to look at the politics of this transformation, why it happened, in my view, and whether or not it will continue, including foreign policy elements of it. Turkey has grown, Aisha mentioned, its income per capita has doubled or tripled, depending on which indicators you use. GDP has increased. It's now, almost about to catch up with Spain. If it goes at the current rate, Turkey will become larger than the Spanish economy in 2 years. If it goes at the current rate, it becomes larger than the Italian economy in the next decade. It will become the largest economy around the Mediterranean. And it's already the largest Middle East economy, which is not a small accomplishment. It's a huge accomplishment. So how has this happened? The economics of it goes to my colleagues, and the politics of it is that there are a number of factors which have driven Turkey's economic transformation. One is it has nothing to do with Turkish politics. It's a chance every country gets one. It's called demographic window. Turkey went through a population boom, which started in the late 50s, and really increased in the 60s and 70s. If I ask you, most people are of Turkish origin, how many of you born in the 60s or 70s? Lots of hands will go up. That's Turkey's population boom. Every country goes through that. And then there's a point in time where population rates, growth rate starts to decline. More women go into the workforce, society becomes more middle class, people start living longer, life expectancy increases. So overall, you see a decline in the growth rate, and this is called demographic window. When the population growth rate has not stopped, it's just declining, and the society's majority is now in the productive ages of 20s, 30s, and 40s. And then the question then is, when a country enters this demographic window, does it have economic and political stability and good policies that create employment opportunities so that it can take off? I like the fact that Aisha showed us a chart which had South Korea in it. South Korea is an excellent case study for a country that takes advantage of its demographic window successfully. It had income levels on par with Ghana in the 1960s. Now it's wealthier than Japan. And so it can happen when a country does really sound economic policies and looks forward. And I think Turkey's unique opportunity right now is that it's in this demographic window. It's almost halfway through it. Almost halfway, meaning its population is not as young that everybody's in their 20s, but it's actually growing. The bulk are in their 30s. Median age in Turkey, median age, statistically speaking, is 30.5, and it increases by 0.7 years a year. So Turkey's population is gradually going to age. We have another 10 more years for Turkey to be in this demographic window. And then growth driven by demographic window will stop. So somewhere by the middle of next decade, Turkey's growth has to come from somewhere else. It will not be driven by demographic boom coming up. But it has benefited for the last 10 years from this demographic window factor. Turkey's population actually started the increase rate, the rate of increase started going down almost about 10 years ago, and it is constantly dropping significantly. You know this, for example, now. I've been following statistics for a number of years. The number of students who go into primary school for the first year each year is less than the number of students who go into school the year before. So that actually shows you that the young population that's coming up is smaller now for about at least a decade compared to years earlier, when one of Turkey's major problems was accommodating this huge young population coming up. That's no more the case. You no more have the population both. So that's issue number one why I think Turkey has done well. It is in the demographic window. It's almost in the middle of it. And because it had a second thing, which I'll explain now, it has taken advantage of demographic window. And the second part of that combination is economic and political stability. In Turkey, in my view, that means single-party government. Now, refresh your memory, go back to decades of Turkey. The decades when Turkish economy did really well, 50s, 80s, and the last decade, are all single-party government periods. It's not the question of who is in charge. It's the question of what the nature of government is. I think it has a lot to do with Turkey's political and social culture. There is a reason why you don't have the word for team player in Turkish, because the concept doesn't exist. And I think it's the same reason why you don't have the word for desert in Eskimo languages, because you don't have desert. But you could also argue that there's no word for doing nothing for the sake of nothing and enjoying the moment, cave in English. So it goes both ways. But there's a reason why you don't have this word, and I think because of that, coalition governments in Turkey perform miserably. Whenever Turkey has coalition governments, any decade, 1990s, 1970s, it's bound to be a terrible one. Economic collapse, political instability. It has a lot to do with the political culture, and international investors know this. They look at Turkey, and if it's a coalition government period, then people are not going to be putting money in Turkey in the long term. And I think what attracted to a lot of investment to Turkey in the last 10 years is the political stability element, which meant for the investors a single party, just one party in charge, which is when Turkey functions more smoothly, as history shows us, because of the fact that this brings huge amount of political stability. One could argue this as a cost, because too much political stability, and it ends up in single-party government, which is the case for both 80s, 50s, and the last period, but this is what people choose. It is, I think, this element of single-party government that has made Turkey's demographic window especially useful, that the country, in my view, really took off. There's still a long way to go. Turkey is not an advanced economy, but it has become a middle-income economy. This is the big change of the last decade. It is no more classified as potentially emerging market. It's supposed to be there. It is there. It has made it. It's a middle-income economy. According to The Economist, in 2010, 55% of the Turks were classified as middle class. This is only going to increase in the next few years. And I think this is a great transformation. It's probably not going to go away. I know there are economists who joke and say there are 4 kinds of countries when it comes to economic development. There are developed countries, there are underdeveloped countries, there's Japan, and there's Argentina. Unless Turkey becomes Argentina, which is the only case where a country actually makes it to the list of advanced economies and then backslides, it will be fine, because it has already crossed the threshold of becoming middle class and gone over the barrier, I think, in terms of its economic transformation. That has been facilitated primarily by foreign capital, which has come into Turkey in larger amounts than ever before. So it is the image of a politically stable environment, demographic window, young but not dependent population anymore. That has helped the country transform, but it's the economic capital which came from outside that really helped Turkey's transition. Turkey now attracts about $40 billion as portfolio investments, what's called hot money that comes into the stock market a year. Another $10, $15 billion comes in for what's called greenfield investment to actually build plants. So it's $55 billion. That's about 10 times the size of what Turkey used to get before 2002. And that's what has made all the difference. It's not Turkish capital, it's foreign capital that has facilitated the transition. And it's still, I think, there's still a way to go. Economists suggest that countries should be getting foreign direct investment. That's about 2% of their GDP. What Turkey gets is about 1%. But it's at least 10 times more than what it used to get, so it's still an accomplishment. It is this money, I think, that's the crux of Turkey's future forward. So I want to look at the challenges, the prospects, having outlined this rather positive picture of whether or not this growth will continue. One element, I think, is that will be important is the image of politically stable country. If that stays around, if Turkey looks as it's politically stable, I think it will continue to attract investment. Second element of it is Turkey has done a really good job, in my view, in the last 10 years, with the exception of Syria, perhaps, of staying outside of conflicts and wars in its neighborhood. In the last 10 years, Turkey had to deal with 4 conflicts in its neighborhood. War in Iraq, the Syrian civil war, Russia-Georgia war, and now Ukraine crisis. It has stayed out of 3 successfully. Syria is where it gets messy. Turkey is not involved, but unfortunately, increasingly more exposed because of the fact that the border between Turkey and Syria is effectively an open border. The government in Ankara opened this border to allow first aid, then fighters, then arms to flow to the fighters. I think it was the right thing to support the uprising, but I think Turkey also punched above its weight. It was too much at the front of the opposition to the Syrian regime because it didn't realize that, for example, it would not have strong US backing from the very beginning. And today I think Turkey is tangled in the Syrian conflict more so than it should be, given that its potential for growth so much depends on its ability to maintain its image of a stable nation. Syria presents 2 threats to Turkey, one of which is the fact that Assad's regime will survive. Assad may not survive, but his supporters will continue to hold on to parts of Syrian territory. And they will not go away, and they will not forgive and forget what Turkey tried to do. And in the past, this regime has used proxies against Turkey, so they might do it again, unfortunately. I would hate to see that. And second is Al-Qaeda, which is an increased and growing presence in Syria, especially in northern Syria, right across from Turkey. No investor is going to put their money in a country that has Al-Qaeda next door. Syria increasingly looks, in my view, like a weak state. A weak state means a country where the government does not have authority all over the territory. And the more fearful scenario for Turkey's stability is that it becomes a failed state. A failed state is like Afghanistan or Somalia, where there is no central government. You have warlords, profiteering, Al-Qaeda. They all fight each other, and that will be a huge disaster. I think that will obviously build Turkey's strong ties with the U.S., make them even stronger, because Turkey will realize that it does need U.S. and NATO hardware and intelligence to keep away the Syrian mess and to isolate itself from that. I think that will be a test. I hope Turkey will survive this test. I hope that it doesn't get affected by the fallout of Syria, but Syria will not get any more tidy. That's one issue. The second issue I'll look at is Turkey's specific nature, which has also facilitated economic growth. We've looked at foreign policy, domestic stability, demographic window. But there's one more element that I think has made Turkey a successful destination for investors. That's because for the last 10 years, Turkey has been open for business. Open for business for investors, which started with the economic reforms of Kemal Dervish, and they were promoted by the AKP government. Turkey is a country that where you had rule of law. If you had invested money as an outsider, you could be sure that you'll be getting your benefits, and there'll be entire, welcoming environment as the country being open for business. I think part of this is what has made the country attractive, but it's also where I think I want to look at the debate on Twitter in Turkey. This is where I think it's bad for Turkey. The idea that Turkey tries to ban it. I know you can't really ban Twitter because there's so many ways of circumventing it. But even the idea that you're trying to ban Turkey. The reason why I think Turkey is at a unique spot is because it is now a middle-income economy. What makes Turkey strong is that it builds cars. It exports cars. That's its chief exports. But you can't become an advanced economy by building cars. It's that time is gone. Turkey needs to become an information society that actually creates a value-added economy. It has to become, in my view, let's say a hub for Google. If it has to become an advanced economy and catch up with the UK And you can't do that if you ban Twitter. That's why I think the ban overall is wrong. It's not good in Turkey's interest. But it also harms this very element that, in my view, if Turkey is going to grow and become an advanced economy, and that's why I hope to sell more books so it becomes a superpower, it has to not only remain open for business, maintain domestic and political stability. I know it's a tall order, but also be attractive to what are called the creative classes. The very people who create value-added economy, the people who would work for Google and similar companies in Turkey. If Turkey can keep them, because they exist in Turkey, and attract them from outside of Turkey, then I think it can make that transition. And that requires Turkey to remain open for business. Turkey has to remain an open society. It cannot ban internet. It cannot, I think, curb freedoms. So it's in Turkey's interest overall, regardless of where you're coming from, I think, to promote that vision. Why don't I end here? Happy to take questions and comments later on. And thank you very much.